Yeah, I know. It's been a while since the Star Wars Battlefront 2 hype started, and every damn second creator was like, "This is insane, it's so underrated, it was perfect." Shut the f up, man. If you really like that game so much, you would have played it frequently. Stop pretending, goddammit. Many of you didn't like the game anyway. The only reason you praise it is the hype, in order to get more attention and obviously make more clicks, likes and subscriptions. And I ain't gonna blame him for that, cause to be honest, as long as the attention is there, and if it's that relevant that some creators still keep sucking on it, I think I'll be humping on it as well.
Damn, let me get my shit off her. Damn!
But with one huge difference. Instead of saying some empty words like a goddamn hypocrite, I'm gonna be full honest with you. Even though me personally, don't like Star Wars Battlefront 2, even I gotta admit that we really need a Star Wars Battlefront 3. And I ain't just gonna tell you why, but even more importantly, how. Cause the way the majority imagines a Star Wars Battlefront 3 is not going to work. But first of all, don't get me wrong, I'm one of you guys. I grew up watching these legendary movies. Even I really miss the times watching Clone Wars on the TV. So basically, I know what I'm talking about here. Unlike some other candidates.
I haven't watched a single Star Wars movie in my entire life.
It's treason, then.
So to make that clear, I am no separatist.
That's exactly what a separatist spy would say.
And the only problem I have with Star Wars Battlefront 2 is whether the scenario, nor the characters, but the gameplay itself. If you watched my videos for some time, you might already know what kind of player I am. One could say I'm more like an authentic, sweaty player, which means that I seek for competition on the battlefield, but at the same time want to keep it authentic. Overall, I'm a strange fella. So the problem I have with Battlefront 2 is that I can't find the competition I'm looking for. And what I mean by that is this. Star Wars Battlefront 2 has some different game modes. The most populated among them is Galactic Assault and Supremacy. One is more like a story-driven breakthrough mode, and the other one is some kind of conquest mixed with rush, if we can compare it to a Battlefield game. Both teams spawn on a map, try to capture all 5 objectives, and the first team that gets 100 points is granted access to the enemy spaceship in order to destroy it. If they fail, they all go back to the ground and play it all over again. And these kind of rounds can take more than 2 hours sometimes. It can go really crazy. Most of my time, which isn't probably more than 20 hours, I played Supremacy, and I always just enjoy the first couple of minutes. Cause that's the time when every player on the map is a regular soldier. Cause after those couple of minutes, some players already gained enough points to come in with the heroes. And that's where I can't enjoy the game anymore. Cause after those couple of minutes, all your experience in this game is purely defined by luck. Cause it's literally not about having great aim and movement anymore, it's about not being in the same objective as General Grievous. This whole skill gap of this game just suddenly dissolves. But in the end, that's my personal problem. The majority, however, actually seems to enjoy this. But why? Well, the answer to this question is one of the reasons why we desperately need a Battlefront 3. It's because Battlefront 2 is literally a casual shooter. So basically, how I call it, it's made for brain dead people. No offense. What I mean by brain dead are people who just give a f about everything. They just wanna play the goddamn game and enjoy the moment. They give a f about wins, they give a f about KD, they don't care about stats, skins and meta. Those poor guys are commonly older people or older students who just want to enjoy a couple of hours after school or work. And this audience, which always makes the majority of any video game, needs a new casual shooter game. Name me one casual shooter game out there that's highly populated. Hell Let Loose, Squad, Insurgency Sandstorm? Nah, No, those are hardcore games. Games that need a lot of time to learn and understand. It's way more complicated than just shooting red dots over some people's head. Apex Legends and Warzone can be counted as casual, but since they're Battle Royale games, they're not appealing for the majority anymore. And the most obvious ones, like COD and Battlefield, are struggling with their own problems right now. So as you can see, there is no very well populated casual game at the moment. That alone gives a reason to make a Battlefront 3. On top of that, Battlefront 2 was the last populated Star Wars multiplayer out there. This community has been waiting too long for a successor. Which brings us to the second part. How does Battlefront 3 needs to look like? Right now, in 2025, the majority of the gaming community consists of Gen Z, couple of alphas, and the millennials. Therefore, if any company out there is going to make a Star Wars Battlefront 3, it actually only needs the original trilogy and the prequels. Well, if you wanted the sequels, well, I'm not sorry for you. Nobody cares about that Screw that I mean, if you start up the game, you will only find the majority of the players in the prequel and the original timeline. That alone tells you everything you need to know. Now, in order to make it appealing for many people as possible, it should come with a more balanced multiplayer, like reducing the heroes a little more and putting more focus on grunt gameplay. So basically a healthy mix between Battlefront 1 and 2. Because if Battlefront 3 just turns out to be a Battlefront 2 but with more maps and more guns, it will die quicker than the last COD. Because the reason for the hype right now are the Star Wars fans, and not the shooter fans in particular. If other Star Wars games release in the future, many will forget this one and abandon it. Therefore, from one side, it has to be authentic, just like Battlefront 1 and 2, but from the other side, create a nice skill gap in order to give a long-term motivation for people who would play it regularly. Other than that, I would appreciate if the heroes are locked in the trilogy, because on Galactic Assault, it sometimes got really awkward if I saw Anakin fighting Darth Vader. I would also welcome some party games, like those smaller co-op missions, or some kind of Order 66 game mode. And last but not least, of course, a single player campaign. To be honest, the single player campaign from Battlefront 2 wasn't that bad. Now, with the situation of having the prequels and the original trilogy, you could make a crazy campaign about a specific clone unit. Actually, it wouldn't matter if it's the 501st again, or another unit like the 212th, or a random new one. But just imagine this. You start the campaign as a clone squad, similar to Domino's squad from Clone Wars, get used to basic training on Kamino, get enlisted in the 212th, participate in a second invasion of Geonosis, liberate Ryloth from the Techno Union, fight on Christophsis with the 501st, prevent Ventress from getting the clone DNA, try to capture General Grievous, fight on Umbara unknowingly against your brothers, defend Coruscant from the Separatists, and finally destroy the remaining droid army on Utapau. You could even implement a boss battle, like trying to execute another Jedi instead of General Kenobi. But most importantly about this campaign is that it has to be linear. Bring back the collectibles and implement some areas where you have to make your own decisions in order to change the course of the campaign slightly. And that would become more interesting in Act 2. Now, after the fall of the Republic and the rise of the Empire, you would fight the remaining Separatists and some rebels in the early days of the Empire. After some time, you'd be given the choice to stay in the army and fight for the Emperor, or to desert to Echo and his team in order to fight for the rebellion. Maybe your own squad would survive until the end, and you might split up with your different opinions. And all that outcome would bring us to Act 3, where we fight during the timeline of Episode 4 and 5, and finally end the campaign on the moon of Endor, alongside or against Captain Rex. If Star Wars Battlefront 3 would be just like this as I imagine, it wouldn't just make a great Star Wars game, it could completely overshadow every other shooter game that comes out with it. But In the end, it's just my idea and my vision. Let me know what you actually think about it. If you agree or don't have any clue what I was talking about, I would be really interested hearing your opinion. Now with that being said, I thank you for listening and I'll see you in the next video.